Hi everyone, it's Alia or Cake Legend and welcome back to my channel. We have another cake decorating tutorial, another classic vintage piped buttercream cake, but this one's got more of a floral theme throughout. This is my favorite trend, so expect to see a lot of these cakes this year. First, we're going to start by stacking our cake. I know I normally don't show this part because everyone knows how to stack a cake, but if you don't, there's a tutorial in the top right hand corner you can find that shows how to stack cakes for beginners, just like this. No turntable required. This is an 8-inch vanilla cake and I'm filling it with a lovely chocolate ganache. And if you don't care about stacking cakes, you've already seen this 100 times, feel free to skip this part of the video. Now that we have our cake stacked, it's time to do a crumb coat. This cake was very soft, so I wanted to do a crumb coat just to really ensure no crumbs would be in our final coat of buttercream. But if you watch a lot of my tutorials, you know that I do often like to skip the crumb coat. So if you want to watch a separate tutorial on how to do that specifically, you can also find it in the top right hand corner. Another thing I want you guys to let me know is if you are the kind of person who chills your cake after you stack it and then you do your crumb coat, or if you stack it and then do the crumb coat straight away, because I feel like I can never do it straight away. The cake always ends up being lopsided, or it's tilting one way, or something not good like that. I always like to chill it just to make sure it's really solidified and it's not gonna move while I'm covering it in buttercream. But I also know that a lot of people just stack the cake and do the crumb coat right away and everything goes perfectly fine. So let me know, what kind of person are you? When I was done with the crumb coat, I did chill this cake for a very short amount of time. And then I started masking my cake in my nice final coat of white buttercream. Smooth finish on the top and sides. Once my cake was masked, it's time to start the beautiful decorating. So I'm gonna take this Wilton number 18 star tip and put it into a piping bag with some more white buttercream, and I'm gonna start making these swags on the sides of the cake. As you can see at the top of the cake, there's like these little markings, which I just placed to divide up the cake evenly. If you want to freehand it though, go right ahead. I went around once and then twice because they were looking a little thin and I just wanted them to stand out a little bit more. I've said this before, but often when I make these vintage piped buttercream cakes, I'm making up the design on the spot. So bear with me here. When I was done with the swags on the sides, I used the same tip to create this design on top. Again, going with the same guides as before, I did a little swirl, but instead of ending it, I drew it all the way to the other side and ended it with another swirl. Then I took this Wilton 104 tip, also known as the rose petal tip. Again, using white buttercream, I piped a ruffly kind of border at the base of the cake. This is done by squeezing and just moving your hand up and down. I did that all the way around the cake, and then I started to dye some buttercream green so that I could start with our florals. Using this Wilton number 1 tip, which is a really tiny round tip, I started piping these squiggly lines to be like vines underneath where each of the swags ended. Don't be too particular with this. We're gonna add flowers to it after, and it's all gonna come together. After I piped that green, I dyed some buttercream this light purple color, and I grabbed a Wilton number 16 star tip. This one's just slightly smaller than the first tip we used, number 18, and I started piping little stars all over these vines. These are going to represent little flowers, so do as many as you'd like. And be sure to do a variety of sizes. When I was done making those flowers on the sides of the cake, I started adding some decoration to the board. And I'm so sorry that my hand is basically covering everything that I'm doing. Next time I film, I'm definitely gonna make sure the angles are better. But I'm piping like little shells, like you're doing a shell border, but I did them in little clusters of 3. You'll see when it comes around on the other side of the board. This next step isn't mandatory, but if you're going to add writing to the top of your cake, now is the time to do it. I used the same purple buttercream and I used a Wilton number 2 tip. I think this tip, or sometimes Wilton number 3, are the best tips for writing. I felt like I needed another color to break up just the white and purple, so I dyed some buttercream this nice light shade of pink. Then I grabbed a Wilton 21 tip, which is bigger than the number 18 star tip, as you can see, and I did these rosettes on top of the cake. After that, I piped some more rosettes with the same tip at the base of each swag. though I was using the same tip, I made sure these rosettes were slightly smaller. And then again, using the same tip, but with white buttercream, I added some more of those piped shells to cover up where the ends meet. I decided to add some pink pearls just for a little bit of detail to the sides and the top of the cake. And then I dyed this buttercream to a lighter, more lilac shade of purple so that I could add some final detail using this leaf tip. It's not the usual leaf tip we use, which is Wilton's 352, I think. This leaf tip is more like Wilton's number 68 or 69, though this particular one I'm using was not Wilton brand. I piped a nice ruffle border going around the top edge of the cake, again just squeezing and moving my hand back and forth, very small quick movements. And then I did the same thing at the base of the cake, but these were like little arches. That was a bad explanation, but you know what I mean. You can see it on the screen. I added some more white rosettes just as like a little final touch, and that was done with Wilton's number 18 tip. And then the real final touch, we went and grabbed that regular Wilton number 352 tip so that we could add leaves to all of our rosettes. And with that final leaf, this cake was all done. It's so stunning. It's so like princess core, if you know what I mean. And I really love it. I hope you guys love this cake as well. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next cake tutorial. Bye!